There's you ever heard this? There's an old Talmudic midrash teaching about Nachshon ben Aminadav. Nachshon ben Aminadav. You're probably thinking, who on earth is Nachshon ben Aminadav? Does anybody know who that is?
First step in Red Sea.
What's that?
Took the first step in Red Sea.
It is the grandfather of Ruth's kinsman redeemer, Boaz. Boaz is his grandfather. And the story is told that Nachshon, who at that time was head over his tribe of Judah, or Yehuda, that he played an important role in the crossing of the Reed Sea. Now you may be wondering, if he played such an important role, why haven't we heard of him? Who is this Nachshon? Well, other than what I've already shared, there really isn't that much more that is known. His name is mentioned 6 times in the Torah, and in the apostolic writings twice in relation to the genealogy of Messiah Yeshua. So what are we told in the Talmud that he did that was so significant that no one seems to know about? What is it? Well, Nachshon is remembered as the first to go down into the Reed Sea. And according to the Talmud, as Bnei Israel stood backed up against the Reed Sea with the whole Egyptian army approaching at warp speed, Moshe, obeying the Lord, commands the people to go forward. He did that rather reluctantly because he kept praying, "Oh Lord, Lord, no, it's time to move, Moses." So he goes forward to step into the sea. And again, some hesitant, some downright unwilling to do so. But Nachshon, he worked his way through the crowd and he plunged right into the water. And he struggled under the waves, and the Midrash says he was near to drowning. But as the water washed over him, the Lord instructed Moshe to lift his staff and stretch out his hand so that the water might split. See, he jumped in before the water split. Nachshon then led Bnei Israel to safety on the other side and onward to Mount Sinai. Obviously, the reason I'm teaching this is there's a lesson to be learned. There's a lesson in the story of Nachshon that can teach us much about the Mashiach. See, the Torah refers several times to Nachshon as the Nazi, the prince over the tribe of Yehuda or Judah. Now, in the Greek version of the Tanakh, for those who don't know, that's called the Septuagint. The Hebrew Nazi is translated in Greek as archegos. Archegos. And archegos, in literal Greek translation, is a forerunner. Is a leader. He's a trailblazer. He's a Captain Kirk. He's a pioneer. He's a prince. He's the head of something. In the Talmud story, Nachshon moved ahead of the stalled crowd leading the way into the sea. And he ushered Israel to safety by taking the proverbial leap of faith. He was the archegos of the people. And the same Greek word, archegos, is used in the apostolic writings by the Talmudim to describe Yeshua. In Acts 3:15, Peter refers to Yeshua as what? As the author or the archegos of life. The one, we are told in Acts 5:31, whom God exalted to his right hand as an archegos, a ruler and a savior. Now, the author of Hebrews, or Messianic Jews, refers to the Messiah in chapter 2, verse 10, as the initiator, or in Greek, the archegos of their salvation through sufferings. And in chapter 12, a little later in the book, again, as the initiator, or the archegos, or perfecter of faith. He is the archegos of life in that he was the first fruits of all to pass from the watery grave of the reed sea of death to life. There's a Hasidic discourse that teaches that the spirit of Messiah is more exalted than that of Moshe. Whereas Moshe is depicted being drawn out from the water and dividing the sea, walking through the water, Messiah Yeshua is depicted above the water. See the difference? In the beginning of Genesis of Vayikra, it says, and the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the water. The sages teach this Spirit is the Spirit of Mashiach, is the Spirit of Messiah. And this thought helps us to rise up. Rise up. Rise up to a higher level of understanding. You don't have to defend this. Probably every pastor on the face of the earth right now is defending the logic or reason how Yeshua can rise from the dead. And going through all kinds of theological gymnastics to try to prove that he can rise from the dead. We don't have to do that.
Amen.
Amen.
But we have to understand it.
That's right. Yes.
Because it did happen.
Yes, it did.
The important thing for us is understanding why it happened and how it happened. Understanding to what Yeshua was declaring. Especially in the Gospels when he walks over the surface of the water. What's he telling us? Well, just as Nachshon led Israel through the sea to safety on the other side, Messiah, Yeshua, leads the way above the watery grave below to safety on the other side through his resurrection. He's leading the way for us, brothers and sisters. How does a resurrected Messiah, Yeshua, lead us? Well, a resurrected life. If you have a resurrected life, you don't struggle and you're drowning in the burdens of life. Right?
That's right. That's right.
You don't struggle and go under because of the weight of the trials and struggles that we all bear. Nor does one who makes it to the other side turn around and cross back through the waters away from God, going back from where they came from and got delivered from. Like we learned from Naomi. Brother Jeremy and I were talking this morning. I don't know how many times I can say this. The issues that you deal in your lives are because you've turned your back and went back. In most cases, that's what the issue is. And it's hard. In watching The Passion of the Christ last night with the kids, Kepha, Peter, oh Lord, wherever you go, I will go. Now, many of us will say, well, thank you. Thank you, Kepha. I appreciate your loyalty. I appreciate you having my back. I appreciate you being right there for me no matter what happens. That's what we would say, even if we were a little bit skeptical. But bless Yeshua's heart. You know what he did? Told him the truth. He says, well, that's all good and well. You know what? You're going to deny me 3 times. 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I would say Yeshua's got to work on his people skills. Because as the pastor, he wouldn't make it. But as a prophet of God, he's done just fine. And sometimes as a prophet of God, you just have to speak that truth. And all that we struggle with, all that seems to be flooding us, problems and trials and difficulties. After God has delivered you through the water, you turn around and walk back through it again to go back to where you came from. Why do we do that? Why do we do it? A resurrected life doesn't do that. A resurrected life leaps into whatever the situation is and then are carried aloft by Messiah Yeshua. You rise above whatever the situation, circumstances. Because the same Peter who denied him also walked in water. Briefly. The answer to life's trials is not found on the other side of the river, nor in the waters below. Our hope comes from the HaBishamayim. It comes from the heavenly waters above. It's there where your hope can be found. It's there you will find the Mayim Chayim, the living waters of a resurrected life. Don't go back anymore. Move forward. May this be your declaration on this Yom HaBikkurim, that for once for all, I'm not going back. Once for all, I'm going to continue to press on and to move forward. Amen? Behold this King sitting in the sun, crown of thorns upon his head. Feel his heart of grace. Behold this man in suffering, bore the cross and all the shame. Breathe again his history. Cross, there in our place, O Lamb of God, you made a way. Once for all, you died so I could live again. Once for all, you washed away our sin. Streams of mercy. Scars of love can still be seen on your hands and on your feet. We feel your heart of grace. Heaven's gates open wide. You have raised us up to life, and we breathe again. This mystery. Nailed to the cross, there in our place, O Lamb of God, you made a way.
Amen. You may be seated. Reading from Tehillim or Psalm 67. God be gracious to us and bless us. May he make his face shine toward us, so that your way may be known on earth and your salvation among all nations. Let the peoples give thanks to you, God. Let the peoples give thanks to you, all of them. Let the nations be glad and shout for joy. For you will judge the peoples fairly and guide the nations on earth. Let the peoples give thanks to you, God. Let the peoples give thanks to you, all of them. The earth has yielded its harvest. May God, our God, bless us. May God continue to bless us, so that all the